flag drops, all hell is unleashed. The historic streets of Cebu, Romania are quickly filled with the sound of roaring engines and the stench of burning rubber. The Red Bull Romaniacs Hard Enduro Rally has begun. The chaos that ensues resembles Pamplona during the running of the bulls. While some bob and weave in an attempt to outrun the bulls, others take a more cautious approach in hopes of outsmarting them. But regardless of strategy, every competitor has only one goal in mind: to make it to the finish line first. The spectators have a front row seat as the racers show off their riding prowess on elaborate and twisted man-made obstacles that seem to have been conceived either by a 5-year-old child or at the end of a night of heavy drinking. But such is life in the prologue, one of the most difficult, demanding, and punishing motorcycle races in the world. And this is only day one. Each September, Cebu is transformed from the capital of culture into the capital of off-road motorsports for the Red Bull Romaniacs Hard Enduro Rally. The location in the Carpathian Mountains is replete with challenging hill climbs and rugged terrain. It's as if God himself created the mountain with the ultimate hardcore enduro event in mind. Enter Martin Freinademitz, the games master for this 5-day event. A former world and European snowboarding champion, Martin organized the first Romaniacs in 2004 after years of exploring the Carpathian Mountains on his dirt bike.
We just wanted to make a race that gives the best riders in the world the possibility to show what they can do. And Romania offers a very beautiful landscape. We have lots of single trails, lots of very high mountains. Sometimes you think it's impossible to go up there.
Martin is not only a highly competitive spirit, but he's also a bit of an adrenaline junkie. And when you combine those two attributes, you end up with an event that's equal parts grueling and twisted.
And Romaniacs is 4 hard days in the mountains. It's a very long trek. It's a day that starts in the early morning and ends late in the evening.
But Martin didn't organize this event to fulfill some sadistic desire. One could argue that he created it as his own personal playground, then invited hundreds of his closest friends to come play with him.
This race is extremely difficult because it's completely uncontrolled. There's no following the tape around a short course like a conventional enduro. You're out on your own in the mountains, relying on your own skills to get through.
You're constantly fighting against, Mother Nature, the elements. The terrain is ever changing.
It's just so demanding in the uphills and downhills and the altitude changes and everything, not to mention the navigation system.
Which is different to what we do in British Enduro Championships and World Championships. It's just taking a little bit of time to get used to this navigation.
There's so many opportunities in this race to do something a little bit dumb, make one small mistake and it can cost you hours. You can go the wrong side down a ridge and spend 3 hours trying to get back up it, no problem at all.
The Red Bull Romaniacs is more than just a race, but a quest to cross that finish line.
I got so many guys in front of me, I'm just gonna go in there and plug away.
Plenty of steam, plenty of carnage. This is Romaniacs after all.
The first day is arguably the most entertaining day of the competition, as racers must do well in the prologue in order to qualify for the next 4 days of the Enduro.
The key to doing well, finish. Get to the finish.
This event is divided into 3 skill classes: Pro, Expert, and Hobby. And in the prologue, the Expert and Hobby classes go first, which allows the pros a unique opportunity to play the role of spectator.
Oh my God, these men are crazy. I hope I don't start throwing myself on it like that.
Try and warm my arms up, get the blood flowing before I get out there and they turn into boulders. I guess, yeah. Yeah. I wasn't nervous until I watched the hobby class guys and they made it look pretty hard.
The competitors come to Romaniacs from all over the world. 23 different nations are represented here. Even some women get in on the action. Don't tell them that men have cornered the market on heart and desire.
No, I was just coming round one of the flares. I had to brake because there was a queue, so I just kind of slipped out and the bike fell on top of me. Kind of carnage out there.
Tamsin Jones comes from the UK, ready for adventure. And Enduro Rally veteran Christina Meyer is ready to tackle Romaniacs once again.
The depth of competition this year, the depth of riding talents really increased from last year. It's going to be a pretty hard-fought race.
Once the expert and hobby classes have cleared the track, the pros take over. They're fighting for good starting positions in the 4-day main event, which means that the fun and games are over, in spite of how peculiar their challenges may look.
Yeah, this was my first hard enduro race last year. And yeah, luckily came away with 3rd place, which I was absolutely stoked with.
He will have to contend with Englishman Paul Bolton, who was close to the lead in 2007 when broken ribs knocked him out of the race.
It takes a lot of skill, for one, and then a lot of determination. But then I think you also need a little bit of luck, because last year I didn't have much luck.
But a pair of newcomers will give them a run for their money. American Jeff Aaron is here for the first time after amassing multiple trials championships in the U.S.
Basically, I'm a trials rider. I competed in the U.S. National Series for trials for 20 years. Extreme enduro has started to take off a little bit, and it's kind of a combination of trial skills and a little bit of just basic trail riding skills. So now it's attracting me.
Then there is 22-year-old Welshman Greg Evans, a last-minute entry after one of his teammates went down in the 6 days enduro the previous week.
It was a little bit of a late decision because one guy pulls out and they called me to come and do this race. So I'm a little bit unorganized, but I'm sure it'll be okay.
2006 champion Michel Gao of France had come here hoping to erase his memories of 2007 when a broken arm knocked him out of the race. But 2008 would end up being a recurring nightmare for Gao as he is stricken down once more, this time with a broken hand. The prologue claims another victim halfway through as American Kyle Redmond separates his shoulder when he fails to navigate the wooden wall. Just like that, Redmond's race is over before it even begins. It goes without saying that Kyle was hoping for a better result here in Cebu. After a strong finish in 2007, Redmond wanted the podium.
Last year, I ended up getting 4th. I rode pretty solid the whole time. I wasn't, fast compared to the top 3 guys, but I was consistent.
Redmond's finish last year was very respectable, given his inexperience riding in extreme conditions like this.
The trail riding in Romania it's pretty gnarly and tough, and it's not exactly what I would call fun because back home in California, it's not wet, it's not slippery, it's all sand, and you're just like pinned the whole time and rocky. And this place is more slippery mud with roots, and it's a little extra tough.
For Redmond, home is Lake Hughes, California, a small little town where he spends his time training and practicing the only profession he's ever known.
It's a really nice little town up in California. We got 100 acres and trails and a track and endurocross course, and it's just a great place to train and prepare. When I'm not racing, I'm pretty much practicing and riding. Fortunately, my dad supports me right now.
Redmond's father is his biggest supporter, playing the role of both parent and crew chief.
Kyle started riding young. I put him on a bike at 3. He actually has a twin brother. Riding with me and my friends at a very young age, on 60s and then 80s, and then they jumped to 250s, they had to really work hard, off-pushing, lifting, and they learned to ride this type of stuff.
He tortured me when I was a kid.
Not at this level that he's at now, obviously. He's a lot better than I am.
Crying,
but
stuck. He wouldn't help me.
You know,
I was like 9.
It was tough love when they were young, teaching them to ride.
Having a good support system can be vital to a rider's success at Romaniacs, as a strong mental game is almost as important as being physically prepared.
Well, at Romaniacs, you know, you can't really expect anything but except for slippery, wet, gnarly hills.
Unfortunately for Kyle, a worst-case scenario involving the prologue never entered his mind. The young American goes home early this year with no podium, no prize. Maybe next year. As the final minutes of the prologue tick away, it's one last push to make the podium. In the end, Paul Bolton crosses the finish line first, proving that he's the man to beat. German Gerhard Forrester takes second, but the big surprise is Greg Evans, who makes a statement with a third-place finish.
I got around all right, and I think as long as I'm still in the top 6 or 7, everybody will come.
I can go for another one if they want. If they didn't think that was, if they thought it was a fluke, I'll go again if they want.
Victories today are short-lived, as the riders must mentally and physically prepare for what awaits them. Tomorrow, the real battle begins. Day 1. Now the race begins. The riders will face 4 straight days of the most grueling off-road racing they have ever experienced. By the end of Romaniacs, the competitors will have traveled in excess of 600 kilometers over a span of 30 hours, and that's if they finish. But the beginning of the race is clouded in confusion, as many riders have difficulty even finding the starting line. Day 1 is barely underway, and already chaos reigns supreme. Even our cameras missed the start.
It was a ridiculous writing to get here.
Was anyone
and you
here?
record it?
What happened? What's going on?
We did not find the start because the people don't know. They turn right at the wooden fence, and in Romania there are fucking many wooden fences, my friend.
Plain chaos.
Yeah, what happened?
No, it's just some of the riders have already in the morning they have navigation problems. So like Paul Bolton, he missed the track.
Top qualifier Paul Bolton encounters GPS problems right off the bat. The Carpathian Mountains can be a lonely place when you don't know where you are or where you're going. But Bolton isn't the only one having a bad day. The expert and hobby classes are also having problems, just not with their GPS.
How do you feel?
Not good.
Not good?
Yeah.
While the competitors go through hell, the spectators treat the day like a picnic. And since it's Sunday, the locals can kick back, relax, and enjoy their Sermale and Tuica while the carnage unfolds in front of them. The first part of the day stays fairly close to the script. Gerhard Forrester of Germany takes the lead early on and keeps the UK's Graham Jarvis and New Zealand's Chris Birch at bay. Since the racers face such an unpredictable course, they must possess both speed and cunning. So while it's important for them to pick their spots in opening up the throttle, properly reading their GPS system may be even more so. The fastest bike in the world won't help you if you get lost.
Oh, you're so lonely out there sometimes when you're just in the middle of a misty forest and there's nobody around you, but yet you can hear an eerie sound of somebody's 4-stroke or 2-stroke over the next valley, and you're just thinking, is it coming from that way or is it coming from that way? And it's just so confusing sometimes. So you can't even rely on sounds out there. You know, it's unbelievable. But when you get really lonely out there, you sort of have a little moment with your GPS saying, I hope you're working and sending me the right way.
But Englishman Paul Bolton can heed no such warnings. After qualifying first, he now finds himself nearly 15 minutes behind the leader, just hours into day one, and Bolton is already in panic mode. After his podium finish at the Erzberg Rodeo in May, Paul Bolton came to the Red Bull Romaniacs a confident man.
The confidence in the race, it was just, I never really thought about where I was going to finish. I just aimed for the finish, and any result that came from that was going to be well accepted.
But that's not the attitude that Bolton brings to Romaniacs. He covets a first-place finish. However, the Romaniacs is a vastly different race. While the Erzberg Rodeo is a one-day battle, Romaniacs is a 5-day war.
The Romaniacs race compares to the other extreme races like Erzberg and Hell's Gate. They're so different in their own ways. Erzberg is like the biggest, hardest one for actual sprint, because it's only like an hour and a half that you're racing for, but it's like the most demanding hour and a half of your life. And then Red Bull Romaniacs is just so demanding in the uphills and downhills and the altitude changes and everything, not to mention the navigation system. The problem with 4 or 5 day events, you know, multi-day events, is that I don't believe in myself, I think, and lack of concentration sometimes.
But Paul Bolton draws his strength from a loving and supportive fiancée and a father that told him to never quit.
He got me into the frame of mind of really being determined and one thing and another, but it was more a fact of when I actually made a mistake, he sort of let me work the bike out of the mistake instead of just coming, helping me, getting me back on the bike and then doing it again. This year I've got a different strategy, and that's to try to win the prologue and then set off first and try and suss it out fairly early on.
But it's just one step in exercising his Romaniacs demons. One can only hope that he can keep his wits about him and not commit the big mistake by going flat out and risking a crash. The race is in full swing. Gerhard Forrester continues to set the pace. Following closely behind are Graham Jarvis and Chris Birch. Dutchman Franz Verhoeven is also in the mix. A veteran of Romaniacs, Franz keeps his cool and rides his own race. Meanwhile, Romaniacs rookie Jeff Aaron marches along as he endures his rite of passage. Jeff Walker of Great Britain, on the other hand, has been here before. Coming in, he knew exactly what was going to be in store for him, but no amount of experience could have prepared him for this. Walker is an interesting story. He's a technical editor for the UK's Dirt Bike Rider magazine, which means they send him off to faraway places like Romania to bring back a story. Well, we'll have plenty to write about after the next 4 days. Shane Cuthbertson is here at Romaniacs for the very first time, And so far, the laid-back Canadian is loving every minute of it. Just wait until he meets the nasty uphills outside Kumatura. With the kind of pounding that these riders will suffer, one might think that this sport is reserved for those who are fresh into adulthood, early 20-somethings without a care in the world. But there's one man on the course who breaks that stereotype.
I'm Shane Cuthbertson from Airdrie, Alberta, Canada. I'm a welding inspector during the day, and I'm an aspiring professional motorcycle rider.
If you were to run into Shane on the street, you might dismiss him as simply an ordinary, average guy. But Shane Cuthbertson is a motorcycle racer, and he is grateful to have the support of his family.
My wife and my two boys, you know, I think they're really proud that I do what I do. The unfortunate part is it takes me away from them a lot.
Shane is an accomplished enduro rider in Canada with multiple hare scramble championships under his belt. Now the 33-year-old is ready to broaden his horizons. So far, the rigors of the Carpathian Mountains haven't fazed the Canadian. As he's gotten older, he's gotten a little wiser.
The older I get, it becomes more mental than physical, which may seem like it's backwards. I think I'm blessed with a really good cardiovascular system because I seem to be able to do these endurance events and it doesn't affect me very much. For me, the time on the bike's the important thing, and really just to focus on having fun.
With the exception of intermittent checkpoints, the rider's only respite is a mandatory stop halfway through each stage. And after spending their morning enduring killer terrain, the racers welcome the rest stop like an old friend. Surprisingly, the first man to reach the rest stop is none other than Paul Bolton, but that doesn't mean he's in first place. As the riders pull into the rest stop, they get 15 minutes for fuel, food, and a short breather. What many of us would consider a coffee break is the most rest these guys will get all day.
No, it's just at the hangout.
You want anything else?
Food.
Okay.
Went over the bars and I've done my injured knee. I injured it about 2 months ago. Now it's in so much pain. But then I think I've missed checkpoint 2 as well. So don't know what happens from here now.
I remember getting to the end of day 1 last year and thinking, man, that wasn't that hard. But definitely not going to think that this time for sure.
How's Chris doing?
Good, I think. It's having fun. This is pretty hard.
So the downhill was
So the downhill was crazy.
Hi, Chris! Whoa!
But, you know, he's in one piece, so he's doing good.
No, how big are you check? Yeah, good.
His service crew didn't manage to be on time, so we tried to give him, you know, new goggles, just help him and just tell him that he did really good.
I think a lot of guys have navigation problems today.
Ein bisschen zerflattert aus, aber sonst geht's nur gut.
Ja.
Straight away. How's your bike?
At that point, I had no GPS.
So you could tell that I went back on course or something?
Well, they were following you in the mini track, and nobody said anything about you not being off course. They just said where you were.
Einfach da außen.
It could have been 15 minutes or 15 hours. No amount of time can properly prepare the racers for this. On first glance, it looks innocent enough. It's only a hill. But as soon as each competitor begins their ascent, this tiny little hill turns from Dr. Jekyll into Mr. Hyde. Paul Bolton arrives first. In spite of a battered knee and a bruised ego, Bolton is a man possessed. There is no quit in this Englishman as he carves up the hill with precision of a surgeon. Soon enough, Gerhard Forrester takes his shot. he's not going to make up any ground on this hill. Chris Birch and Graham Jarvis are next, and it's slow going as they try to scale this behemoth as quickly as they can. But they become the first in a line of riders who spend more time off their bikes than on. Austrian Dieter Happ, another Romaniacs veteran, is also feeling the course's wrath. You can't ride without hands, but even with a broken finger, Happ bites down and presses on. Before long, the carnage begins to pile up as rider after rider hit the dirt, and many see their bikes' radiators explode like geysers. Beaten down by this unrelenting hill, the riders are soon left with two choices: dismount their bikes and drag their machines up the hill, or give up and beg for mercy. If you think the pros are having it tough, think about the hobby and expert classes. They have to scale the hill too, but up an easier route. Yeah, right. Well, this is what Martin Freinademitz calls easier. The only man who may have the right idea is Jeff Aaron. This is where having an all-wheel drive motorcycle comes in handy. This year, the Romaniacs Hard Enduro Rally sees a fresh face from the USA. His name is Jeff Aaron. Aaron boasts of a strong trials background, and after amassing 10 AMA National Trials Championships, he was ready for a new challenge. And like many trials riders proclaim, the world of extreme enduros is a perfect fit. Aaron competed in the Erzberg Rodeo in May. After feeling pretty green during qualifying and a poor start in the hare scramble, Aaron rallied hard for a top 10 finish. Much of that can be attributed to his arsenal of riding skills and also to his secret weapon, the Cristini all-wheel drive motorcycle. Having an all-wheel drive machine in an extreme enduro race is a huge advantage for Jeff. The extra traction allows him to plow through many difficult hill and rock sections that can quickly zap a rider of their energy. He'll need that extra advantage as he strives for a strong showing at Romaniacs. And if he can have the type of showing he did at Erzberg, it won't be long before the contenders will start looking over their shoulders. The riders head back into town for arguably the most unique challenge of any extreme enduro, the aptly named Teeter Totter, the final test before the stretch run to the finish line. Gerhard Forrester, Graham Jarvis, and Paul Bolton are first. All three easily navigate their way to the other side of the river, much to the delight of the locals. Chris Birch is next, and he nearly ends up being the first victim of the day, but he stays on the gas and makes it through. Dieter Happ decides to take a less conventional approach. Normally, dismounting your bike means certain doom. But even before he makes it to the other side, the Austrian acknowledges his victory. But the crowd hasn't waited all day to see everyone make it safely. They want to see somebody go down. They get their wish soon enough. The riders use every approach imaginable at the teeter-totter, but most everybody ends up becoming one with the river. Even the teeter-totter itself becomes a victim, as it is rendered unpassable. There is now only one way across this river. And unfortunately, a motorcycle cannot be used as a flotation device. Riders now make their final push to the finish line. Jeff Walker has had some mechanical issues today, but he continues to push on like a champion. The same can be said for Greg Evans, but his troubles aren't mechanical. He's just having a bad day. And here's Dieter Happ. With a broken hand and all, the Austrian is clearly against the ropes.
Did I broke my finger? Oh shit. And it's not so nice anymore.
While the pros have definitely taken their lumps, the racing may be even harder on the expert and hobby classes. These are not full-time riders. They don't have the luxury of year-round testing and conditioning. They're winging it out here. Whoever survives all 4 days will do so purely on guts. Canada's Shane Cuthbertson is holding a steady pace. This big mountain riding is similar to back home, but for Craig Stone of South Africa, this terrain is totally unique. And still, he's making good time.
Franz, you having a nice day? Lots of fun?
Don't joke. Don't joke with me. We are suffering hard. I think it's 50% more difficult than last year.
Whoa. 2006 was tough, but this is a whole nother level, eh? Good.
You having fun yet?
Oh, no. I get cramps all the time under my feet.
And no fun, huh?
But it's almost fun.
Why do you guys do this shit?
You know, Red Bull Romaniacs' reputation is that it's the hardest race in the world, and it's living up to its name. And to be a finisher of one of the hardest races in the world there's a lot of pride in that, and it's all about self-satisfaction and being one of those to finish.
Day 1 belongs to Graham Jarvis. His finishing time of 6 hours and 46 minutes is 2 minutes better than his closest competitor, Gerhard Forrester. Chris Birch picks up right where he left off in 2007, finishing third, 19 minutes behind the leader.
I feel absolutely annihilated. It was okay up until the service point, and then just going up and down that hillside just rooted me. I expected it to be hard. I'll be honest, this is a little bit harder than what I expected, but I'm glad to get to the finish, and you know, I figure if I'm suffering, everyone else is suffering too.
Paul Bolton's performance in the prologue was nothing short of brilliant, as he expertly dismantled each and every obstacle in his path. But today didn't exactly go as planned. Paul's injury before the rest stop could be a bad one, and the one thing holding him back. But a bum wheel won't keep this champion down. Bolton crosses the finish line in just under 10.5 hours, which put him in 11th place.
My knee's gone. An injury from 2 months ago. It's knackered. I don't think it'll be possible to carry on.
But they told me also you missed one checkpoint. Did you?
Yeah.
For why?
This was telling me the right way, and then it was the wrong way, so I blame this really. I was following on the track every time. I don't know. Really bad day.
By day's end, Jeff Aaron and Greg Evans are just happy to have the course behind them. But they both have a lot of ground to make up, as they're behind by 4 and 5 hours, respectively. While some riders are sitting in the catbird seat after day 1, others are left trying to figure out what went wrong. But there's no time to exult or wallow. With 3 days of racing left, a stroke of luck or a bad break can change a rider's fortune in the blink of an eye.
For the first day it's still okay, I'm still in the race, still can stand up and try to finish this day.
A little bit of a clutch problem yesterday, just went into a little bit of meltdown on me, so.
Put my foot down yesterday, just a little fast dab, and it turned on me, so flipping heck, it hurts when it goes though, really badly. But no problems with the bike though, the bike were ace, just me.
After a fierce day of racing on day 1, some competitors have decided not to come out for day 2, whether it be by injury or by choice. The weather is the story of day 2. Rainfall has turned some of the track into a quagmire, forcing race officials to divert the pro class away from the course's most difficult section, Siggy's Zigzag. But not to worry, Martin Freynademit still has plenty of tricks up his sleeve. From the beginning, Bolton puts on his game face and charges hard. It doesn't matter if it's a mountain, a zigzag, or a canyon. Bolton rides full bore, even with a bad knee.
I'm just trying to go down without hurting my leg. Very difficult and very steep.
Up ahead, Gerhard Forrester leads the way, and Graham Jarvis and Chris Birch are more than willing to allow him to take the point, as he seems to be the only one comfortable with his GPS system. Thus, the first half of the day is spent playing a game of follow the leader.
I was talking to Martin, the race director, earlier. He said, if it rains, how hard is it going to be? He just smiled and said, oh, hopefully someone gets through. So I don't know what we're up for.
Birch took 3rd place here last year. Not too shabby for his first time. Since then, he's lived a fairy tale existence.
Yeah, since Romaniacs and doing all these extreme races through the last year, life's changed quite a bit. I don't have to go and stand in front of a lathe in a factory so much anymore. Yeah, having a lot more flexibility. I've been and seen some amazing things. Motorcycling in New Zealand we have a lot of people riding. It's a really good, fun atmosphere. The racing's not that intense, but the amount of people riding is huge. When I come to a race now, everyone expects me to ride up the side of everything, and we go out riding with my mates and they're, oh, you ride Romaniacs, you have to ride up that now. But it's kind of cool. The popularity of the sport amongst the general public is getting there, it's getting better. Still, we've got to get past rugby. In New Zealand, only 95% of the people only care about rugby. It's the only sport that matters. But we're getting there slowly.
While motocross is still growing in his own country, it has always been popular in his own home.
And my family's involved in a huge way. My dad has been racing his whole life, and is obviously what got me into the sport. And he's given me the passion for riding motorbikes and taught me everything he knew. And my mum rides. She's just as passionate as we are. And my wife, Monica, she loves it. She has no interest in motorbikes whatsoever, but she just loves coming to the races, and she enjoys the passion that I have for it.
I mean, there's a lot of top riders who've got very similar skills to Chris, but they can't perhaps relate to people and put it on the same way. And my wife and I, Jo and I, get so much pleasure in the way Chris can just get on with everybody. He's just fundamentally a really nice guy.
Above all else, Chris loves to ride. And coming to cities like Cebu makes it all the more enjoyable, especially events like the Prologue.
I think Cebu might be the nicest city in Romania. It's actually really beautiful. The old quarter, it's all protected by a wall in the centre of town. It's a really beautiful place with lots of nice architecture and a big central square, and it's a nice place to be. I think it's brilliant that they run a race right in the middle of the city. It shows that the locals are really keen to have us here, and the authorities are pretty lenient, letting us do pretty much whatever they want to do with the race. It's cool that we can start right in the middle of town and bring Enduros into the people.
Birch has come a long way in his first year of extreme enduro. And as he returns to the place where it all started, he's not yet ready for the clock to strike 12.
The #1 goal in this race is to make the finish line. And I guess this year my goal is to make the finish line as fast as possible. I obviously want to be on the podium again and be as close to the top of it as I can.
With inclement weather and harsh riding conditions, the pit crews were expecting a long day. But they're a little shocked when the top 3 pull into the rest stop just after 2.5 hours of racing. The trio is setting a blistering pace.
I think for me it might even be an advantage. We've come out of New Zealand winter where it's rained and rained and rained. It hasn't stopped raining for like the last 5 months, so the mud for me would almost be a good thing.
Again, same thing as yesterday, caught up to Gerhard and got past them, riding pretty well, and then got lost again. And Gerhard, the human compass, just never ever gets lost. Like, I can beat him up the hills, I can beat him down the hills, but he just never makes a mistake, he never gets lost.
We must concentrate all the time on the GPS, not to make mistakes, because the guys in front of us, they make mistakes as well. I saw some tracks left and right which were not good, so you have to navigate yourself. It's not just following tracks.
A little tricky to stay on the trail. The GPS is only working about half the time because of all the fog and everything. All of the time.
Just get some gloves going and get some water in this puppy.
You lost your navigator?
Yeah. I must have like kicked it and like loosened everything on the zip nose, and I was going along the trail and it just exploded off. Oh yeah. was all good until I crashed, tapped out 5th gear, just walked off this rock, flying through the air.
Yeah. So you.
Okay. No, I mean the statement.
Oh. I'm maybe not as quick as some of the guys. I don't want to go down, but I'm just trying to be steady today. Still got 2 more days after this.
It was pretty hard to come to the checkpoint, but maybe we can change it, we will see.
It's just about 10 a.m. and a call comes in that changes the entire race.
I just got a call that Paul activated his emergency system at 10 o'clock. So now the mountain rescue is on the way to get him out of the woods and take him to the city to hospital.
Bolton has activated his rescue system. A devastating crash has thrown him from his bike. And this time, he won't be able to shake it off. His final act is further proof as to why he is one of the class acts here at Romaniacs. A competitor from the expert class, Jürgen Dorr of Germany, also has a hard crash right near Bolton, which ruins his throttle. In an act of camaraderie and sportsmanship, Bolton offers his throttle to Dorr, allowing him to forge ahead. But the Englishman's day is done. For the 2nd year in a row, the Red Bull Romaniacs has gotten the best of Paul Bolton. Once the leaders leave the rest stop, the dogfight begins. Chris Birch decides to open it up a bit in order to chip away at the 19-minute deficit he had after day 1. And after dropping the hammer, Birch is able to put some distance between himself and the rest of the field. But once again, the weather decides to dictate the pace. On a day like this, when the course is difficult to manage, the worst thing that can befall a rider is getting lost. Birch finds this out the hard way. He eventually finds himself back with Jarvis and Forrester, whose navigation skills have earned him the nickname, the GPS machine. The top 3 are all within a minute of each other as they approach the final challenge of day 2. Having to face such a nasty set of obstacles after a full day of tight racing is a good gauge of just how badly these guys want to win. Chris Birch decides to kick it up a notch. He sees an opening and goes for it, but he cannot shake Gerhard Forrester. The 2 riders are neck and neck with the finish line in sight. While he may have been edged out at the finish, the Kiwi comes in just under 6 hours and 30 minutes, 1 minute ahead of Gerhard Forrester. He is also able to cut 2 minutes into the lead of Graham Jarvis, who crosses the finish line in 3rd. With the 3 top riders all so close, the gauntlet has officially been laid down. It's another hour before the next rider crosses the finish line. Today, it's American Jeff Aaron who puts his all-wheel drive Christini to good use in the poor conditions and ended the day 3 hours better than he did on day 1. Not bad at all. Shane Cuthbertson holds 11th place, while South African Craig Stone edges closer to the podium in 6th, just behind the Dutchman Frans Verhoeven. Day 2 was challenging in every aspect, but if the riders thought that the weather and course were bad today, just wait until tomorrow.
It was a really tough day. It just went on and on and on, and it's really hard all day. So I'm very glad to finish.
Day 3, here we go again. So I think I'm sitting in 7th right now. So hopefully I can go steady today and move up another couple spots.
Day 3 of the Red Bull Romaniacs holds a sense of importance to the racers, an urgency, if you will. Day 3 is moving day. The term is borrowed from professional golf. And while the two sports couldn't be more different, the meaning is the same. This is the day where the contenders make their move up the leaderboard, while the pretenders ultimately move down.
I don't think there's any advantage in going in the front today. It's probably a disadvantage, but you can't worry about that. If you get the opportunity to win a day, you got to take it, right? So
again, just try and hold on. Everything's not too good. The elbow's still playing up a little bit, but the plan is to hammer down first thing. We have a longer loop than the hobby class. We need to get in before the hobby class at the first gas check.
The race is on, and Mother Nature rears her ugly head yet again. Cold temperatures, light rain, and poor visibility turn the game from cat and mouse to hide and seek. In the early going, the riders all decide to keep a close eye on each other. With such dense fog, which makes navigation even more difficult than normal, they stick to Gerhard Forrester like a magnet. But on a day where Forrester could have used his navigation prowess to make his day go right, everything else seems to be going wrong.
I have no idea where he is. We were riding together for quite a while, and there was a group of 4 of us, and we all sort of got a bit lost. Haven't seen Gerhard since then. So I imagine he'll be coming, but I have no idea where Gerhard is at the moment.
At the rest stop, Forrester arrives with a smashed gearbox. He's only able to ride in first gear and loses several minutes.
Kan man inte gå in i då på den andra sidan? Det linket ikke går det over. Det er på det ikke.
I'm losing a lot of water whenever I climb the hills. My bike is spewing water, so I keep having to refill on the trail too. There he is.
We get Greg.
Yeah, it's real tight, like you've got to be real on the navigation, like. Yeah, it's pretty difficult without navigation, and you've got to like stop and follow these little red, white things, like, but if you don't follow them, you're going to get lost big time.
While Forrester has his share of problems, the others are just getting started. Greg Evans tries to take a smooth line up Martin's Revenge. Enough said. Then there's Frans Verhoeven. The Dutchman had been riding high with the leaders today, matching them move for move. But after leaving the service checkpoint, Verhoeven's day falls apart. After shaving nearly 2.5 hours off his time from day 1 to day 2, Verhoeven's chances of a top 5 finish are at risk. The day has also been frustrating for Chris Birch. The Kiwi had counted on making the most of moving day. But when you're forced to endure such harsh conditions, especially at 2,200 meters in elevation, it can be next to impossible to convince your brain to do anything but play it safe. And for most of the day, that's exactly what Birch does. Graham Jarvis also rides conservatively. This is not the day to get cute. But he makes the most of his chances, doing everything his opponents do, only better. Before long, Jarvis has earned himself a solid cushion. It's been said on every day, but day 3 is quickly panning out to be the most difficult day yet for the competitors of every class. Riding through the torturous terrain of the Carpathian Mountains is hard enough, but when you're cold and wet, every section is the toughest. Craig Stone saw his chances of winning die a slow death on the first day when he finished 2.5 hours behind Graham Jarvis. But he put up a respectable time on day 2, giving him the fuel he needed for a strong day 3. Now he's positioning himself in the top 10. Jeff Walker finds himself still reeling from day 1's mishaps. But the luck of the Irish is on his side today as he rides a solid pace. Shane Cuthbertson is also riding well, despite the course's attempts to smack him down. Now he's on the attack. Dieter Happ's misfortunes of a broken finger on day 1 become too problematic to carry on. Unfortunately, he has to pull out of the race.
I said, no, it makes no sense to do another 6 or 8 hour day. It's time to say goodbye.
Jeff Aaron's introduction into the Romaniacs was not what he expected, but he has since been able to reverse his fortunes. By positioning back-to-back top 10 finishes on days 2 and 3, Aaron can smell a top 5 overall. One of the biggest turnarounds, however, is Greg Evans. His first 2 days were a disaster, but he's unstoppable today, putting in a performance that makes one think that an imposter had been riding his bike the last 2 days. But if his prologue finish proved anything, it's that Greg Evans is a winner. Originally, Greg Evans wasn't supposed to be here, but a bad break for one of his teammates turned into a good break for him when the last-minute invitation to Romania was extended.
I was in 6 days in Greece last week for 2 weeks, and Tom Seger, he crashed on the practice track. So then Julian called me and asked me if I could ride the Red Bull Romaniacs. All you have to do is just book my flights and get here. So I made a few arrangements, and I am here now.
Brimming with excitement and an air of invincibility about him, he came into the race a little uncertain of his surroundings.
I don't really know a lot about the race. I've seen it in the magazines, and I've seen a little bit of it on TV at home. But no, from what I've seen around on the prologue and things, it's totally different. I've never ever seen anything like this at all.
But it's not just Red Bull Romaniacs that he's unfamiliar with. The whole sport of extreme enduros are a relatively new venture for him, and he's jumping in with both feet.
I enjoy doing these extreme races. I have a motocross background, and I put a lot of effort into training and working. Yeah, it's going really well. 3.5 months ago, I had a big crash in the car, and I broke my femur just here. So I was in hospital for 10 days, and they put a nail from top to bottom of my leg, from here to here, and I was off for 3 months.
And this accident couldn't have come at a worse time.
I was 3rd in European Championship, but then I broke my leg, so just really, really annoying and disappointing in myself, really, like.
And now that he's back racing, he looks to take his game to the next level.
No, I don't have any hesitation or any butterflies in my stomach or nothing. It's just, I love coming a little bit late, and I find this, I'm a bit more pumped when I'm a bit rushed and everything, you know. I get a bit more pumped up when I'm rushed, but should be really good.
Chris Birch has put some distance between himself and Gerhard Forrester, finally taking advantage of Forrester's mechanical problems. But it is too little, too late for Birch on day 3, as Graham Jarvis has successfully nickel and dimed his way to a big lead. Birch reaches the finish line 6 minutes later. He now sits 23 minutes behind the leader. If an award were to be given for gutsiest rider of the day, it would be Gerhard Forrester. The German seemingly experienced problems from the word go, but somehow, some way, that didn't stop him from posting the 3rd best time of the day.
Yesterday was fun. Yesterday was good fun. Today, very hard. Today, all day long.
Dig deep, push hard, and hopefully try and win this.
Day 3 of the Red Bull Romaniacs is officially over. While a select few are wondering if they'll have what it takes to win, the rest wonder if they'll have what it takes to finish.
Tomorrow is the last day. This is a horrible race. I should never come back. I promise.
I had a really big crash at the service point. There was a big hill, and I trashed the bike. I have to have a new rear end on the bike, so I had a very big crash yesterday. But I finished, and I had a good result yesterday, so it was all good.
Having your breakfast in the bike? Yep. No time, because it's quite early after 3 days of hard work. It's quite difficult to get out of bed, so we rescheduled the breakfast.
After 3 full days of punishment, it's hard to imagine anyone being eager to suit up for a 4th. But when victory is within one's grasp, the human body is surprisingly resilient.
I think we're really pushing the boundaries of what we can do. It's a struggle just to finish, so I'm just happy to do that.
The race is still wide open, but victory will not come easy when you still must race more than 100 kilometers over obstacles that can be downright nasty. Martin Freinademitz didn't create a cakewalk. Whoever crosses that finish line today is going to remember the price they paid to get there. This may be Graham Jarvis's first time at Romaniacs, but today he utilizes the strategy of a veteran. From the start, he doesn't let Gerhard Forrester out of his sight. It's time for Chris Birch to make his move. If he wants to improve on last year's third-place finish, he's going to have to show just how badly he wants it. While many had thought this had come down to a three-man race, somebody forgot to tell Franz Verhoeven. After a disastrous third day, the Dutchman decides to go for broke. Greg Evans is also coming on like a freight train. His riding is flawless. Marching behind is Jeff Aaron, determined to make the podium. Day 4 is punctuated by devastating hill climbs dubbed K2 and Wild Bear Mountain. Word has it that grizzly bears run wild in these parts. These hills are so difficult that sometimes the riders imagine seeing things.
Do you enjoy the bear hill? It's just like the rest of it. Really tough.
Wait, is that Bigfoot? Martin Freinademitz has taken these gallant competitors through some of the most treacherous natural terrain on Earth. But now he throws one final curveball. It's called the Crazy Biker's House. This structure is a remain of dictator Nicolae Ceausescu, who ruled communist Romania through much of the latter half of the 20th century. And in a nod to the race's prologue, the riders must scale this last challenge in order to finish the race. The spectators eagerly await the first rider who will take on this abandoned concrete labyrinth. But the fans are stunned to see Franz Verhoeven. His heroic push in the mountains allows him to taste sweet victory. Verhoeven exults as he crosses the finish line. After 3 days he would rather forget, his final day performance earns him 7th place overall. With one surprise finish out of the way, could there be an upset in the making? The battle rages on between the trio of Birch, Forrester, and Jarvis. Each knows that a win at Romaniacs makes a big statement in the Enduro world. Birch pushes through the pain and exhaustion. He doesn't know the meaning of the word quit. Forrester makes a move, trying to distance himself from the others. But Jarvis isn't backing down. This is his moment for glory. They arrive at the Crazy Biker's house, each within seconds of the other. It's a fight to the finish. Forrester is inside first, but he doesn't know that Jarvis is lurking around the corner. Birch enters the fray, trying to find a way around the German. But Forrester stumbles on the wood plank. And that mistake is just what Jarvis needs to overtake him. The victory is final, with only moments to spare. 19 hours, 27 minutes, 27 seconds. That's how long it took Graham Jarvis to dismantle the Red Bull Romaniacs and everyone else in his path. Not only did Jarvis win in his first attempt, but he also is the first non-Frenchman to win. Gerhard Forrester and Chris Birch arrive at the finish line in quick succession. Both men are feeling equal parts elation and exhaustion. It was a fight to the end, having finished in the exact same position as in the previous year. Forrester in second, Birch in third. The rest of the field begins to trickle in. Completing a race like this is an incredible achievement, and you can see it on the riders' faces. Tamsin Jones will leave Romania with a 12th place finish in the hobby class, and Christina Meyer will have to settle for 15th overall. Greg Evans' rally on the final day places him in the top 20. Right behind him is Jeff Aaron, who continues his string of strong debuts in extreme enduro by finishing in the top 5 overall. Craig Stone dug deep today. The result? 4th place. The South African proves to himself that he can finish a race like this. In 9th place overall, Shane Cuthbertson arrives nearly 40 minutes later. His first Romaniacs is a success. But there's still no sign of Jeff Walker.
How you feel? Absolutely shattered. Today was a really mentally, physically hard day for me.
An event that we can finish it.
Many of the riders would finish more than 3 hours behind the leaders. But for them, there's no shame. The Red Bull Romaniacs Hard Enduro Rally is arguably the most challenging off-road competition in the entire world. To be able to say that you conquered such a fierce test of wills is a victory in itself. A victory that will carry with them forever. And so the saying goes for all extreme races like this, it's not always about winning, it's about finishing, because finishing is just like winning.
That was brilliant!
How hard is this race to film?
You wake up with a heartache at like 4:30, 5 o'clock. You went out, it's dark, you find nothing. You got no GPS. If you have a GPS, maybe the track is not be in.
Did you get any sleep?
Well, I don't know. I had 2 days in this week where I did not sleep, and that was not so nice because the next day I'm not so relaxed somehow. But well, I think if you see the pictures, it might have been worth to put a bit of action.
Yeah, I was preparing my camera point to film Gerhard Forster, and yeah, he came behind me and I wasn't prepared, and he had no place. Suddenly the engine stopped and he had no place to stand, and he gave me like a body check, and I fell down the rocks and left the camera, and I cried because I thought Gerhard and his bike would fall with me down, and that doesn't happen, so I was really lucky.
I saw my friend Rainer on the side. I stopped to talk to him. Boom! My guide went straight into me. Yeah, like everything flew over. He popped out his shoulder. My leg was destroyed, and yeah, so the week was over for me. And I ended up in the editing room. But in the end, it's the hardest camera rally in the world.
Yeah, it's hard to filming, and then it goes really fast. Yeah, small crash, you know, you have no time, you must go fast always. And then, yeah, small accidents, it's normal in Romania.
The crew's been amazing. It's been a good team. Red Bull Romaniacs has to be done. Ciao.